We're continuing on with the Chapter 5 lectures. So looking at this image, picture A, it shows the hair follicle and a hair, and just a few structures I want to point out to you is that the hair follicle, which is the entire thing, the hair follicle itself, is associated with sebaceous glands. The sebaceous gland is attached to the hair follicle so that oil or sebum is released into along, into the same pore that the hair is in. And so another thing is I want you to know that a erector pili muscle is attached to the hair follicle, and this can cause the hair to stand on end. It enables the hairs to be sensitive, to very, very fine movement and touch. Okay, so a couple of other things down near the deeper portion of the hair. You're going to see the hair papilla, which contains blood vessels, and then on top of that is the hair matrix. And these cells are what push the hair up as it grows, as your hair grows longer. And then we have the hair root, which anchors the hair to the skin, to the epidermal cells of the skin. Down here, you see how if you follow the hair root all the way down to the deepest layer, it anchors the hair to the skin cells underneath. And what else? The cortex. Okay, first the cuticle, which is composed of a protein called hard keratin, the cortex of the hair, which is also hard keratin, and then the medulla is soft keratin. Okay, there we go. All right, as far as the hair growth cycle, we talked about how fast skin cells are shed and replaced. Hair grows for 2 to 5 years, and then it's shed. And on average, it grows 0.3 millimeters per day. So it would take, let's see, times 3, take 3 to 4 days for it to grow an entire millimeter. But growth cycles can vary among individuals. They can vary among hair types, and they can be affected by your general health, your hormone levels, or exposure to certain chemicals. When I go to get my hair cut, my hairdresser often would ask me, like if she would say, "Oh, you're shedding a lot of hair this time," and she'd ask me if I was on any different medications, or she would ask me if I was taking any supplements. And sometimes it would be a good thing because I have taken supplements to cause my hair to grow, and gone in after a year or so of taking the supplements, and my hairdresser would comment on the healthiness of my hair. So anyway, so just different factors can affect that growth cycle of the hair. Okay, as far as the erector pili muscle that causes the goosebumps, the muscle responds to contracts in response to fear, rage, so extreme emotions, or cold temperature by standing up to erect position, or causing the hair to stand up to erect position, and also causing goosebumps on the skin. As far as hair color, it's determined by the amount of melanin and the type of melanin, because remember there's a brown-black melanin, and then there's a red-yellow melanin. So blonde hair is going to have more of the red-yellow melanin, and darker hair is going to have more of the black-brown. And then you have other shades, the red shade of hair. So all the different hair colors and shades are due to the amount of melanin and the type of melanin that's produced from melanocytes. As far as gray or white hair, that's due to the reduction of declining of pigment production as you get older. Let's see. Okay. And your hair color is generally determined by genetics or hormones, or the environment. We many of us have false hair color. I colored my hair for years. I colored it the same color as my natural color. But then I stopped during COVID, and so now I have a mixture of brown and gray. So I'm in the process of, well, I've let my color grow out, and I'm kind of in the process of deciding if I want to color it again or if I just want to let it go gray. But anyway, that's the age that I have reached. Let's look at the checkpoint question 16. If a burn on the forearm destroys the epidermis and the deep dermis and then heals, will hair grow again in the affected area? No. Because it's if it's destroyed the deep dermis, then it's destroyed the hair root. It's destroyed any of the cells that could produce hair. It's destroyed the follicle. Okay, there are two types of exocrine glands in the integumentary system. There are sebaceous glands or oil glands, and then there are sweat glands, and there are two different types of sweat glands. So sebaceous glands discharge sebum, which is an oily lipid secretion, and they're always attached to a hair follicle. The secretion is a holocrine secretion. So remember, that means the entire cell, the cell that's filled with sebum, the entire cell bursts and is shed along with the sebum. Now, the purpose of sebum is that it inhibits the growth of bacteria, it lubricates our hair, and conditions our skin. However, you can also have hormonally very active sebaceous glands that will lead to acne. Okay. And this just shows you another picture. This is the same image that we saw before. Here's your hair follicle, your sebaceous gland attached to it. Sebaceous glands always release sebum into the hair follicle. Acne is caused by blocked sebaceous ducts, and that causes inflammation and the pimple that results from it. All right, there are two different types of sweat glands or sudoriferous glands. They're apocrine and eccrine or merocrine sweat glands. The apocrine sweat glands produce the thicker, more sweat that has the odor, tends to have an odor, but the eccrine or merocrine sweat glands produce the watery sweat. So an apocrine sweat gland is going to be attached to a hair follicle as well. Eccrine is not. You're going to find apocrine sweat glands concentrated in the armpits, around the nipples, and in the pubic region. And that apocrine sweat is a food source for bacteria, so sometimes the bacteria growing causes odor, and that's what the deodorants are for. Eccrine or merocrine sweat glands is this watery sweat that you secrete because you're hot or because you're exercising, you know. You have these on the soles of your feet, the palms of your hands, and you also have them kind of scattered throughout your skin. The sweat is 99% water, but it also contains electrolytes, urea, which is a waste, and some organic nutrients. And the function of the eccrine sweat glands is to cool the body. Mammary glands and ceruminous glands are modified sweat glands. Mammary glands are related more to apocrine sweat glands, and they secrete milk. Ceruminous glands produce earwax, called cerumen. Okay. Checkpoint question. Deodorants are used to mask the effects of secretions from which type of skin gland? This would be the apocrine sweat gland or apocrine sudoriferous gland. Then the last part is going to be nails, fingernails and toenails. Nails are formed from keratinized, highly keratinized epithelial cells. They protect our fingertips and our toes. As far as structurally, we have a visible nail body. And then the on the sides, the skin that kind of is on the sides of the nails are called lateral nail folds. And then the nail bed is the epidermis that's underneath the nail. Okay. We also have a nail root that's not visible from the surface. We have a cuticle or eponychium, which is this comes from the stratum corneum of the lateral of the fold that extends over the nail close to the root. So it comes from the stratum corneum of our skin. And then the lunula is the crescent, like half moon shape that's near the root of our nail. So looking at a picture is a lot easier. Here's your lunula, here's your nail body, here's the cuticle or eponychium. And then we have the lateral folds on each side. If you ever go get your nails done, or if you get a manicure, pedicure, they often will clip the excess skin in the lateral nail folds. And you can see like a cross section, see how that skin just kind of folds up at the edges of the nail. But anyway, sometimes it gets kind of thick and it looks bad, so the nail technician will clip that skin a little bit. What else do we have here? We have, you also need to know we did the lunula, the nail body, the cuticle. You can see it from a different view here. The nail bed, well, this shows you the nail root. You can see that clearly, the nail root. And then here you can see the nail bed, which is this is the skin that's directly underneath that kind of supports the nail itself. Okay. As far as repair of the integument whenever it's injured, there are 4 phases of skin regeneration. Just make sure that you read through those phases and understand what happens during each phase. There's the inflammation phase. Remember, the 4 cardinal signs of inflammation are swelling, heat, redness, and pain. There's the migration phase, proliferation phase, and the scarring phase. So read through those. I'm just going to go through the illustrations here. So during the inflammation phase, you'll have bleeding at the site of injury, and mast cells produced from the damaged tissue will trigger the inflammatory response. The mast cells will release histamine and trigger the inflammatory response. That's going to draw more like white blood cells to the area to kind of prevent infection. Then you have the migration phase, which is phase 2, and this is when you have a scab that forms at the top. This happens after several hours. Clotting begins, and you also have like phagocytes that have migrated here because they're attracted to the histamine that was released during step 1 from the mast cells. Then you have the proliferation phase, which is when deeper parts of the clot begin to dissolve. And then you have the scarring phase. And sometimes there's minimal or no scarring, and then sometimes there's some scar tissue. Sometimes the scars are so bad they form keloids, which look like this. This is a keloid, and this is one that's probably not ever going to really heal. All right, and then there's a section on burns. Make sure you know the difference between the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree burns. So partial thickness burns are 1st and 2nd degree burns. In a 1st degree burn, only the epidermis is affected. It causes redness or erythema from inflammation, and a sunburn is an example of a 1st degree burn. A 2nd degree burn is the entire epidermis and part of the dermis. It causes blistering, pain, and swelling. You may get some scar tissue. But if it's a 3rd degree burn, this is called a full thickness burn, and this is when both the epidermis and dermis are destroyed. And these 3rd degree burns require skin grafting, because once that dermis is destroyed, there's no stem cells in that stratum basale to rebuild. The damage, even in a 3rd degree burn, can extend to the hypodermis. And this is a chart that shows you the different burns if you want to read through it, but it's first degree, second degree, third degree. Just make sure you know those. Okay, the rule of nines is estimates the amount of, you know how they'll say like 80% of the body was burned, you know, that basically they divide the body surface into multiples of 9%. And you can see here what percentage each body part, like each upper limb is 9%. So together they're 18%. Each lower limb is 18 each. So together that'd be 36%. And that's how they estimate the percentage of the body that was burned. And then there's a section on aging. Let's read these checkpoint questions. Older individuals do not tolerate summer heat as well as they did when they were young, and they are more prone to heat-related illness. What accounts for these changes? Well, for one thing, they don't sweat as much. That's probably the main thing. They don't sweat as much. And why does the hair turn gray with age? Because the melanin production declines with age.